to me.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Ruffin.
David would sleep outside the door here.
Right outside that door.
Tell me about him.
David Ruffin is just a wonderful man of God, but he was homeless for 6 years as a total alcoholic in this city.
Over here, at the time, I was sleeping in an abandoned truck. And there were other people sleeping around me. One of the guys had a home inside one of the trailers over here. Or many nights when I laid in here, afraid to be here, but at the same time, afraid to leave. Because even though it was dangerous in here, I felt that it was even more dangerous out there in the streets. There's lots of things out here in the world today, but to me, crack was straight out of hell. This thing has totally devastated lives.
Lived in the shelters for a while, but as he'll probably tell you, the shelters were more dangerous to him, if you can imagine, than the street. Collecting bottles and cans so that he could get enough money for his next bottle of wine, and would end up sleeping in his own urine right outside this building.
How do you feel about life when you're in a situation like this?
Dave, to me, being homeless was about the worst thing that could have happened to me. It's like to me, like a fall from society. One of the things that I remember, I was in Harlem then, that hurt me the most one day it started to rain. And I would see people scurrying and scattering all the place, going different directions to their homes. And I looked at myself and it was like, now where do I go? This is the back of the Brooklyn Tabernacle, the church. And these steps here, this is one of the places where I used to would hang out. On the Easter Sunday, when I got saved, I came here, as usual, at the end of my route to just rest. And as I sit here, I could hear the choir singing on the inside. And the music was so heavenly, it sounded so good, that I could feel that there was something wonderful on inside of this building. And I felt that I really wanted to be a part of that. And as I was sitting here, I was arguing with the thought of whether to go in or not. I mean, I was looking at myself dirty, filthy, smelly, drunk, and I'm thinking, well, with all of what's going on inside of here, should I really present myself that way? But I know it was the Lord who communicated the thought to me that this was his house and that I'm supposed to come in there any way I was. And so with that in mind, I went inside. Well, when I came into the building that night, Dave, I walked up here to the balcony and sit there, being a little surprised that under the conditions that I was in, nobody asked me to leave. This woman, God had brought her out of a horrible background, a drug addiction, something similar to myself. And all of a sudden, she just stopped, just like that. And I knew that people just don't do that. At the end of the service, when the pastor gave the altar call, it was already in me to respond. So I went forward and surrendered my life to the Lord.
And I see this guy 3 rows back, sheepishly looking at me in the center aisle. And I said to myself, as God is my witness, oh man, what a way to end an Easter Sunday. Someone's going to hit me up for money, which happens a lot here.
When I came into this building, getting money was about the last thing that was on my mind.
And as he gets close to me, he smelled worse than any human being I'd ever smelled in my life. The odor was so horrible of the street, of filth, of sweat, of urine, that when I talked to him, I had to look away to inhale, and then I would look back at him breathing out. And he put his finger in my face and he said, Reverend, I don't want your money. I want this Jesus that you were talking about. I'm going to die out there. I don't have a hope in this world unless somebody changes me. And at that moment, I became so convicted of my lack of love, of my lack of compassion. And I said, God, forgive me. And God, Norm, baptized me afresh with such love and compassion that I began to just weep for my own need and for what I saw God doing in David. And David sensed it. And I dropped my hands to my side, and he came against me, and he fell, his face, matted hair, filthy, fell against my chest and thigh. And I put my arms around him.
When I embraced him, I felt like I embraced something that was real, that this man really stood for the Lord. And it was that love that drew me.
Suddenly, that smell became the most beautiful perfume I had ever smelled in my life. It was as if God was saying, if you have any value, It's this smell that I sent you for, because that's the smell of the world that Jesus died for. Jesus didn't die for a nice, clean, neat little world. He came for that which was lost and ruined. And that night, David gave his heart to the Lord. And now his testimony is being used to bless countless people. He's one of our trusted workers now here in maintenance and security. David Ruffin is a man of God.